Hello, this is Xbox Ahoy, and this is the 31st episode of my Black Ops 2 Weapon Guide. This time, we're covering the RPG. The last of the three launchers, this explosive option has seen numerous outings in a variety of forms, starting with Call of Duty 4. In Black Ops 2, the RPG is a futuristic interpretation of the Russian RPG-7, a Soviet design dating to 1961. The RPG-7, or Ruchnoy Protivotankovyy Granatomyot, meaning handheld anti-tank grenade launcher, is a relatively straightforward design capable of firing a variety of warheads. Little more than a steel tube and trigger mechanism, the RPG is a man-portable design fired from the shoulder. It is most often employed within an anti-armour role, with shape-charged warheads funneling a stream of molten metal capable of piercing thick steel. Some warheads use a tandem charge to ensure effectiveness against reactive armour, with a smaller primary charge clearing the way for the larger secondary explosive. There do exist rockets designed for an anti-personnel role too, either via fragmentation or thermobaric effect. In-game, the RPG deals substantial explosive damage over its radius of effect, wounding those caught in the periphery and killing unprotected enemies outright towards the blast epicenter. The blast radius is identical to that of the SMAW, so each offers similar performance with a lethal radius of a couple of meters. Enemies with flak jacket will prove troublesome to kill outright with the RPG. Only a direct impact will kill. The RPG lacks any form of lock-on, so tackling air support can be tricky. Larger, slower flying aircraft such as the VTOL warship are the easiest targets, while attempting to down a UAV will normally result in a wasted shot. Should you successfully strike your target, however, you will down it with a single rocket. Know that the RPG's projectile follows a meandering path, making long-range accuracy heavily reliant on luck. Rate of fire is very slow. Even under perfect conditions, you'll only be able to fire the equivalent of around 15 rockets per minute. As a single-shot weapon, a reload is required after every time you fire, and as such, this is the major factor limiting your output. Handling is generally very slow, as with all the launchers. The RPG takes nearly half a second to aim, at 400 milliseconds. Hipfire is impossible too. You will need to aim prior to firing, greatly limiting your effectiveness in reactive gunfights. Your mobility will be similarly sluggish while you have the RPG equipped too. You'll move at 90% of the base movement speed. As a single-shot weapon, there's no magazine to speak of, and readying a new round to fire takes 3.29 seconds, slightly slower than the SMAW. You do benefit from a greater initial supply than the SMAW, however. The RPG gets 2 rockets upon spawn, instead of just 1. Our build of the RPG is slightly unusual. An explosives-only approach that throws caution to the wind and aims to keep you in the fray and deal maximum explosive damage. A suicide bomber class, if you will. With our first choice, we dive straight into the perks, skipping over any primary weapon selection and instead using naught but the RPG. Lightweight is our choice for the first tier, elevating your mobility whilst using the RPG and allowing you to get into a better firing position more quickly. Ideally, you should switch to your knife often to maximize your mobility, only switching to the slow-handling RPG once you're in position. Next, we select 2 perks from the second tier with the PERK 2 Greed wildcard to permit better use of equipment. First up is Fast Hands, granting faster weapon switch times and equipment usage. Particularly useful if you plan on making use of the faster movement speed of your combat knife and for more aggressive use of your equipment. Given the slow handling nature of the RPG, it is useful to inject a little reactivity to improve on the aggressive ability of the weapon, better taking advantage of its anti-personnel role. Second up in Tier 2 is Scavenger, resupplying your rockets and equipment when you pick up a blue pack. Enemies killed via explosive won't drop any loot, sadly, but should you find your explosive supply depleted, getting a kill with a found conventional weapon or your knife will grant you more munitions, allowing more sustained use of the RPG. Next, Dexterity will improve sprint recovery and will otherwise assist reaction time with your weapon. The faster mantling speed will also allow you to quickly gain a height advantage over your foe before raining rockets down upon them. Getting higher up increases the angle of intersection with the ground, meaning you benefit from the ability to better determine the point of impact, and thus detonation. And your reward for landing more accurate shots is greater overall lethality. Next, to enhance our equipment selection, we elect the Danger Close wildcard, doubling up your lethal slots to 2. We fill these slots with 2 C4 charges, a selectively detonated powerful explosive that can be tossed near close-range enemies to quite some effect. Paired with fast hands, and as long as you remember to double-tap your reload button or the use key on PC for a rapid detonation, C4 is an excellent choice for aggressive use, boasting high explosive damage with flexible timing. With it, you can set traps in doorways or near combustible objects such as cars, or simply toss a C4 pack directly into the fray and detonate immediately for an explosive surprise. Finally, we take a smoke grenade in our tactical slot for concealment or confusion. Useful for capturing objectives should you ever need to, or to cover open ground while avoiding enemy snipers. Smoke can also work in your favor during combat. While it might blind you as well as your enemy, your explosives don't need accurate direction to remain effective, leaving those reliant on precision utterly helpless. That's our build, a set of perks designed for aggression, paired with a slow-handling weapon that needs all the help it can get to support such a role. Your reward for this combination is the ability to occupy advantageous position over your enemy, while blunting their approach with a continuous barrage of deadly explosives. Such tactics rely less on precision, with your blast radius filling in the need for fine aim, but are more reliant on positioning and anticipation of your enemy's movement. This can work well in objective game modes, where it's easier to determine your enemy's spawn and where their movements might lead. Should you prove successful, you can land impressive multi-kills and blunt the opposing team's offensive efforts. Of course, there exists one very potent counter to such a build. Flak Jacket will be your bane with any explosive weapon, and any sensible enemy will be in a hurry to equip this perk once they're wise to your tactics. As such, the RPG might be best employed as a situational weapon, as continued use might see diminishing returns. The RPG is the best launcher for use in an anti-personnel role, the largest starting supply putting it ahead of the dual-purpose SMOR. This enhanced ability means you can make more liberal use of the weapon, suppressing the enemy's movements through choke points to better take control of the map and to swing games in your favor. Of course, your explosive force is easily blunted. Flak Jacket and the trophy system can render you impotent in the face of conventional weapons. Paired with its lethargic handling traits, the use of this launcher is a high-risk, high-reward affair. Terribly effective against unprotected enemies clustered near objectives or choke points, but with a severe risk of proving ineffective and leaving you vulnerable. Still, such is the price for taking the explosive option. You trade reliable lethality for a wider area of effect. While it might sometimes blow up in your face, the RPG can sometimes prove decisive. So, if you want to have a blast, equip this launcher and go out with a bang. Thanks for watching. This has been Xbox Ahoy. Join me next week when I'll be covering the Ballista. Until then, farewell.